Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, how are you doing? Welcome back to Iftar with Imran. Got the Iftar right there, and it's your brother Imran. Two quick announcements before we begin, inshallah ta'ala. For Iftar time, you have me. For Suhoor time, you have my brother Sa'ad, who's going through benefits from the 29th juz, from the 29th Supara in the Quran. Every day he shares a benefit with you guys, because Ramadan is the month of Quran. That's over on his channel. So if you go to the link that I have placed, inshallah ta'ala, in the information section below this video, you can actually keep up to date with Suhoor with Sa'ad at Suhoor time, Sari time, and you can be with me, inshallah ta'ala, for Iftar time. Also, if you guys missed the previous videos, you can catch up on them by going to the playlist on this channel titled Iftar with Imran, and you can catch up that which you missed, inshallah ta'ala. So what are we talking about today? People have a series of questions that are kind of like in the same category. People want to know, can I taste food whilst I'm cooking in Ramadan? Like, you're cooking and you want to know, is it too much salt? Is it too much sugar? Is it too spicy? Is it not spicy enough? You want to make sure the food is just right. Does it break your fast if you taste the food? They want to know if taking asthma pump breaks the fast. They want to know if brushing your teeth with toothpaste breaks the fast. Using mouthwash breaks your fast. They want to know if chewing gum breaks your fast. If chewing gum breaks your fast. They want to know if using a body spray breaks your fast. A deodorant or attar or perfume or the bukhur, which is that Arab thing that you liked. You put the little, I don't know what they are, but you put the things on the charcoal and the beautiful smell comes out of it. They want to know if these things break your fast. And the reason I've decided to bring them all into one video is because they all are kind of really talking about the same thing, inshallah ta'ala, even though they all don't necessarily have the same ruling. So, first, before we answer any of these things, I want you guys to get an understanding of what food and drink is considered in the Sharia when you're fasting, okay? The Prophet ﷺ's hadith, where he narrates from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is in Sahih al-Bukhari, mentions يَدْعُ شَهْوَتَهُ وَطَعَامَهُ مِنْ أَجْلِ, that the slave, when the slave fasts, leaves off desires and food for Allah's sake. Now, we don't talk about desires. Desires here means intimacy with your spouse. So we're not going to talk about intimacy right now, because that's not relevant to anything here. What you guys are concerned about, if any of these things that we've previously mentioned take the same ruling as food and drink. So what is food and drink when it comes to fasting? Food and drink, pay attention now, because this is going to answer a lot of questions. Food and drink when it comes to fasting is anything that enters your body, whether it enters your body through your mouth, whether it enters your body through your nose, whether it enters your body through your ears, through your eyes. Anyway, if it enters your body and it makes its way into your stomach, that is considered food or drink. That takes the ruling of the prohibition as food and drink. Okay? So, now that we understand that what you're not allowed to do, in other words, is enter anything inside of your body, no matter where it enters from. It doesn't have to be your mouth. You're not allowed to enter anything that comes into your body that actually makes its way to your stomach. So now straight away I understand from that if something does enter my body and it doesn't make its way to my stomach, and it doesn't give me nutrients and energy and the things that food or drink does, then what does that mean? That means it's not going to be haram to do that. It's not going to break your fast if you do that, right? Good. So now that we know that, we need to ask ourselves, what from these things come into the body and make its way to the stomach? And if it doesn't make its way to your stomach, then that means it's okay, right? So that's the question that we need to ask when we're talking about when you're tasting food, when you're using toothpaste, when you're using mouthwash, when you're using body spray, when you're using deodorant, attar, perfume, all of these things. We want to ask ourselves, when this enters into your body through your nose or your mouth, does it go into your tummy? Yes. If it does, no, you cannot use it. If it doesn't, no problem, you can do it, insha'Allah ta'ala. So, let's do chewing gum first. Let's talk about that first. Chewing gum, brothers and sisters, even though when you chew it, it doesn't enter your body, the nutrients from the chewing gum, you intentionally swallow it. You intentionally swallow the taste and the nutrients and the flavorings and the additives that are in the chewing gum. As you're chewing it and it's actually coming out into your mouth, you intentionally swallow it. So you're intentionally swallowing flavoring. You're intentionally swallowing additives. You're intentionally swallowing nutrients that are within the chewing gum. So that is not permissible, inshallah ta'ala. At the time when you're fasting, if you do that, it will break your fast. Good. What about tasting food? You're cooking and you're tasting it. No problem, provided you spit it out. Okay? Provided you do not swallow it. Imam Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah is the one who passed this fatwa. That if you take in food and you taste it, as long as it doesn't enter, you don't swallow it, and you spit it out, no problemo, inshallah ta'ala. So everyone who's cooking can make sure there's not too much chili, not too much spice, there's enough salt. If not, iftar, it's going to be peak. Everyone's going to be upset. Inshallah ta'ala, you can do that. Bi'idhnillah al-kareem. Just don't swallow it. What about brushing your teeth and mouthwash? Again, no problem. You can brush your teeth, you can use the mouthwash, provided you do not swallow. If you swallow when you brush your teeth, then there's a problem. If you do mouthwash and it comes in, it's a problem, right? But as long as you spit out the toothpaste and you spit out the mouthwash, no problem. Now, I know some people here might argue and they say, listen, brother, when you brush your teeth, some of it, might, accidentally, unintentionally mix in with your saliva maybe and go in. And some of, the mouthwash or the food that you're tasting might kind of mix in with your saliva and go in. And inshallah ta'ala, as the ulama explained, this is not a problem, because even when you do wudu, when you wash your mouth, when you do the madmada, right? When you do the wudu, when you put the water in your mouth and you rinse your mouth and you spit the water out, some of that water might infuse with your saliva and it also might go in. But that is not intentional. There's no intentionality behind that. You're intending to spit it out, and that is beyond your control. So they say if any of that toothpaste or whatever it is that comes in that you spit out happens to mix and infuse with your saliva and swallow it, it takes the same ruling as the water when you do the wudu. You're spitting out the overwhelming majority of it. If any bits of it happen to remain behind, then that's not your fault. Okay? So inshallah ta'ala, you can taste the food, you can use the toothpaste, and you can use the mouthwash as long as you spit it out. And I mentioned to you the food tasting and whatnot. This was Imam Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah who passed this fatwa. Now, what about using asthma pumps? Okay? Now, Imam Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah mentioned again that it is permissible to use the asthma pump, okay? Because the asthma pump or the inhaler, it doesn't necessarily have any particles or anything in it that would actually make its way into your stomach, okay? Now, pay attention. The scholars, they discussed this issue a little bit further now. They said it's not as simple as just saying all inhalers and all asthma pumps are permissible. They said the inhalers and the pumps need to be divided into two categories. They said that there are those inhalers that just open up the windpipe. That when you take it, its job is what? It just opens up the windpipe. When you have asthma, your windpipe kind of like closes and becomes tight. The inhaler that opens up the windpipe, they said this, inshallah ta'ala, is permissible to use and it will not break your fast. But they mentioned, if you're taking an inhaler that has vaporous elements in it, it actually has vaporous elements of a vaporous nature in it, then inshallah ta'ala, if you take that can break your fast. And if you don't know what type of inhaler you have, you go and ask your doctor. If it is one that opens your throat, it just goes to the throat, it just only makes its way to the throat, nothing else, then inshallah ta'ala, that is not a problem for you. But if you're taking anything and it's going and it's making its way into your stomach, okay, then that's a problem. So that's why I told you, the scholar said the one that opens your throat and widens your throat, no problem, okay? And that's what Imam Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah explained. But the ones that actually have extra things in there, okay, it has extra vaporous elements that even could make their way into your stomach, then that is a problem and that is not permissible. So the scholar said the ones who take these vaporous elements, ones that have more things in there that could actually make its way to your stomach, the person who takes this is of two types. The one who takes this every now and again, you might break 1 or 2 fasts because you became extremely ill and you had to take this inhaler. For you, you have to bring back the fast if you happen to break your fast during to that inhaler. You have to redo the fast after Ramadan. But if you are a person who is regularly taking this inhaler that has vaporous elements, not the one that widens and opens up your throat, but the other one that actually has other things in it. If you're a person who has to take this for medical purposes and you take it a lot of the time in Ramadan, in fact, you're taking it excessively, it's not once or twice, it's a lot. You're so sick that you have to keep taking it. Then for you, you do not have to redo your fast after Ramadan. you take the ruling of a sick person who's chronically ill, who's permanently ill, okay? Because a person who's permanently ill, who has to keep taking medication, is not going to find a time where he or she is fit enough to redo the fast. So because you cannot redo the fast outside Ramadan, because you keep having to take this medication, in your case an inhaler that has these vaporous elements, then for this person, what do? They pay something called Fidya. Fidya means you feed poor people. Okay, for every day you broke your fast due to this medical thing, or for every day you didn't fast due to this medical illness, that is chronic, that is permanent, okay, because you're excessively taking this inhaler, then you do fidya. You give fidya, which is you feed the miskin for every day that you didn't do it. Remember, this is only for the person who excessively uses the inhaler. Majority of his fasts are broken or not fasting due to him taking this vaporous inhaler, okay? But the one who breaks his fast every now and again, once or twice due to the vaporous inhaler, he has the ability to bring it back outside Ramadan because he's not as ill as the one who's permanently or chronically ill due to this illness. Now, how do you pay the fidya? How much is the fidya? Inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to link you to a charity called Crisis Aid, a very trustworthy charity, and they have worked it out to £3. £3 for every day you don't fast. Okay, £3 for every day you don't fast as a result of a chronic permanent illness, because you will not be able to make up that fast. You feed poor people. So each person that you're feeding is going to be £3. So for every day that you miss, you pay this, inshallah ta'ala. So go to the link below, Crisis Aid, it's only £3. There you can do that, bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. Now, finally, we're going to discuss the issue of the perfumes, the deodorants, okay, and the attar. Inshallah ta'ala, you can use the perfumes, you can use the deodorants, you can use the attar, you can use the cologne, provided it's not, these fragrances don't actually have particles in there. For example, the attar that's called misk, it's very nice, usually the white one, it's got like powdered stuff in it, okay? It's got powdered stuff in it. So as you inhale that, when you take it in, you might actually inhale some of that powder, okay? And that's an actual substance that would make its way to your stomach, right? So you can't use those. But if it is just an oil-based fragrance, or even if it's a spray, like a deodorant or a perfume or a cologne, or even a attar that's, spray and it's not oil-based, no problem, because inshallah ta'ala, it will not, inshallah ta'ala, make its way to your stomach. But if it does have anything that makes its way to your stomach, problemo, okay? Now, finally, what about the bukhur, okay? The bukhur, the ulama, they say you're not allowed to intentionally inhale it. You're not allowed to intentionally inhale it, okay? Why? Because the bukhur has particles in it that if you inhale it, they will make its way into your stomach, potentially. So there's a risk, okay? And the bukhur is that thing I told you that, with a nice smell, the Arabs, they usually light it, and many of us have it in our homes. And the reason why that's not permissible is because the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith in Sunan Abi Dawood, بالغ في الاستنشاق إلا أن تكون صائما. The Prophet ﷺ said that when you are doing wudu, take the water in your nose and make it go as high as you can, but not when you're fasting. Because if you take it too high, it can actually go up from your nose it can go into your throat, and then it can make your way to your stomach, and that would break your fast. So they apply the same thing here. The scholars apply the same thing here. They say the same way that water, if you put it up too high, it's going to be at risk of actually going into your throat and breaking your fast. The same is when you go to the bukhur and you inhale it. You're inhaling it, it can actually make its way into your stomach, okay? But they say, generally speaking, if it's on, as long as you can light it, but you just can't go and intentionally try to inhale it, okay? If you intentionally try to inhale it, that is a problem. But if it accidentally happens to go inside of you, then again, it is just like the water that you do when you rinse your mouth when you're doing wudu. If it accidentally goes into your throat, that's not your fault. And who is it that mentioned this about the perfume, about the deodorants, about the bukhur, about the attar? Who is it that mentioned this? Imam Ibn Baz, Imam Ibn Uthaymin, and Lajnatul Da'ima, which is the committee of ulama, inshallah ta'ala, in Saudi Arabia, the elite and leading ulama who came and they passed this fatwa. So inshallah ta'ala, just to summarize, my beloved brothers and sisters, that which makes its way to your stomach, you cannot take, no matter where it comes in from. But that which doesn't make its way to your stomach, no problem. So based on this, you cannot take chewing gum, but you can mouthwash, you can taste food, and you can brush your teeth provided you spit out the toothpaste and the mouthwash and the food that you're tasting. The asthma pump, the one that widens your throat, you can take it, but the one that actually has vaporous elements that could make its way to your stomach, there are no. Deodorants, perfumes, attar, cologne, you can use those things provided they don't have any powdered or vaporous elements that could actually make its way into your stomach. The bukhur, it does have these powdered particles. It has these particles that could make its way to your stomach. For that reason, you cannot intentionally use them, because if you intentionally use it, what's going to happen? It's going to possibly make its way to your stomach, which could break your fast. But if it happens accidentally, then that is not your fault. Quick side point, brothers and sisters. Some sisters actually wear perfume and they wear fragrances outside. That is haram. Sisters, if you watch my previous video on Iftar with Imran, I already told you that it is not enough for you to just fast from food and drink, but you also have to fast from sins. Fasting means to abstain. You're abstaining from food and drink, but you're also abstaining from sins. So my sisters, do not be one who takes this fatwa that I mentioned to you of the ulama and says, oh, the perfume is not going to break my fast, so then you wear the perfume when you go out into the streets. It is not permissible. The Prophet ﷺ said that a woman who wears fragrances and she walks outside, okay, and where the men can smell it, the Prophet said she is a fornicatress. That's a dangerous statement, my sisters. Dangerous statement. She's a fornicatress. So please do not be a sister who's going outside while she's fasting, okay? She's staying away from food and drink, so she's not going to get the sin of food and drink, but she's not going to get reward for her fasting because she's disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you go back to my previous video, I mentioned it. I mentioned the hadith from the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man lam yada'a qawla az-zur wal 'amala bihi." Anyone who does not leave off filthy speech and filthy evil actions, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no need. He does not want this person to leave off food and drink. He has no need for you to leave off food and drink. Your leaving off of food and drink doesn't have an effect. Why? Because you are not just supposed to leave off food and drink. You're supposed to leave off food, drink, filthy speech and filthy actions. And wearing fragrances outside is from these filthy actions. So my sisters, do not do it. Also on this point, which is a bit of a side point, but makeup. Also, do not be wearing makeup when you're fasting, my sisters. Why? Because my beloved sisters, the Prophet ﷺ, if he told you that a woman cannot wear perfume outside and she's a fornicatress, then what about makeup? The perfume, it beautifies you. It causes you to be an object of allure and attraction, right? If perfume does that, then what about makeup? Makeup further emphasizes and elucidates the effect of attraction and the allure that a woman might have. And if the Prophet ﷺ said that a woman who's wearing perfume is a fornicatress, then my sisters, what about a sister who is? What about a sister who is? A sister who is wearing makeup. A sister who's wearing makeup. That's going to be worse now. So please leave off these things, inshallah ta'ala. Finally, just to mention to you, brothers and sisters, we still have that offer running for the Fasting and Furious course, where it's absolutely free for you to access. It is our Ramadan course, our Ramadan program, which is people are loving right now. Wallahi, people are like, we never understood Ramadan like this before, because we're going into the secrets of fasting, the Quran, the tahajjud and its relationship with the Ramadan, and the Taraweeh, and the different rulings, what you can do, what you can't do, the rulings between husband and wife, and what to do if you're traveling and you're fasting, and the last 10 nights of Ramadan, and tawbah and dua and istighfar in Ramadan, and the fact that Jannah is open and the gates of Jahannam are closed and the devils are locked away. What does that mean? What are the implications? To what extent are deeds multiplied in the month of Ramadan? And the objectives of Ramadan, which is taqwa. What is taqwa? How do you apply it? How do you implement it? How do you achieve it? And so much more pertaining to the month of Ramadan, which is on this course called Fasting and Furious. And right now you can access it absolutely free. And also 2 other courses that we're going to release in the coming days that are tafsir courses on Fatiha and the last 15 ayat of the Quran. All of it you can access for absolutely free, inshallah ta'ala. Just go to the link below, fastingandfurious.com, click the link and leave your email address behind, and we will, inshallah ta'ala, send you how through an email how you can access it, inshallah ta'ala, for the whole of this month. So please do not miss that opportunity. Make use of your Ramadan by signing up ASAP. Like I said, it's free, and it's only free for the next 7 full days, okay? So don't miss out on this opportunity. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.